Facebook Live. It's good to be back. Hey, I have missed all of you. I took a little bit of a break last week. I only talked to 2 people last week, so I did not do a preview week. But this week we're gonna, because we have 15 interviews this week. 14 of them are Be the Talk interviews. Looks like I'm having a little trouble behind me, folks. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, hopefully my canvas backdrop takes care of itself and does not act up anymore. Let's get right to the action, because I'm trying to limit these things to 20 minutes. It's really hard to do when you've got 15 brilliant people that you're about to talk to. So now, as I do this, love to hear who you are. Send a comment. I am not on Facebook right now. This is a third-party software, but I can see your comments. Let me know who you are and where you're watching from so that I can acknowledge that, because I really miss not being able to acknowledge all of that stuff when I'm recording. So let's take advantage of this today, because this is all just the weekend preview here for all you guys. So I have a new way that I'm doing this. Okay, here we go. All right, first person that I am talking to is entrepreneur Peter Lynch. I can't wait to talk to him, because he talks a little bit about ageism in the entrepreneurial startup community, which I'm a little sensitive to, because I'm solidly in middle age here. So when we're talking about the startup community and 35 is too old, and some of the things that he mentioned being disturbed to hear in his talk, I can heartily agree with Peter Lynch when he talks about that. And his talk that he gave was called The Cul-de-sac Startup. I think it really speaks to the ability that the people had. Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, all of the garages that house these startups in years and decades past, and that's still a viable option. I'm looking forward to talking to Paul about that as we move ahead. Now, what happened? I had an entire history here, and here we go. Okay, I've got a rogue screen that's taking my notes away. Second talk is Paul Sandip, who gave a talk, and by the way, Peter Lynch's talk was TEDx Mile High. We moved from Colorado, Denver, I believe, to all the way to Bangalore. This was TEDx Hewlett Packard in, I believe, Bangalore in India. And Paul Sandip has invented all kinds of neat modifications, all kinds of sustainable inventions and packaging and things like that. I'm going to be having a design-centered conversation with Paul about empathy and designing and risk and trial and error and putting people first instead of the famous Henry Ford quote, "You can have any Model T you want as long as it's the color black," because he only wanted to make black cars. And obviously the customer base began to disagree with him more and more. From there, we're going to Austin, Texas, TEDx, University of Texas at Austin. Doreen Lorenzo is one of the professors there, also about design thinking, and we're going to be talking even more in depth about design and her thoughts on the philosophy of design. Human-centeredness, empathy, trial and error, risk. And really, that's going to be a little bit more, I think, philosophical with some killer case studies thrown in. I'm looking forward to talking with Doreen tomorrow on the talk. After that, we're going to go all the way to Canada, TEDx Langley Ed. And we're going to talk about the power of an entrepreneurial mindset with Bill Roche. Bill walked in. He's a serial entrepreneur. Again, another entrepreneurial talk. And he walked into a classroom. He wanted to empower youth with the tools to be able to make money and validate and do all of the product development and all of the product validation and testing and all of that. And he wanted to really empower a class of young kids. And one kid just folded his arms in front of Bill and said, "Oh, I'm not buying into this." And then Bill said, "Well, you're going to be in charge of this. You're going to be completely student led." And he got the kid's attention, and pretty soon, just because that kid was the holdout for the whole class, when the kid turned, the whole class turned, and he did some really amazing things with that class. I'm looking forward to finding out more about that. After this, we go to State College, Pennsylvania. Another great talk from TEDx Penn State University. Nalini Krishnankutty is my guest, and she's going to be talking about how immigrants shaped the United States and are still shaping the United States. So we've got this major war of ideas and opinions, and it's nothing new, folks. We've always been a nation of immigrants, and we've always been a nation where the most the most recent wave of immigrants, no matter where in the world they came from, whether they were, certain places of Europe or whether they were outside Europe or whatever, we've always been a nation where it seems like the most recent geographic immigrants have kind of gotten the bad rap a little bit. And so that's all I'm going to say about that. But Nalini has great talk where she talks about all of the great inventors of yesteryear as well as today, and the amazing role that immigrants have in shaping inventions, economy, jobs, as well as culture. So you can't really be American without all of these great things that we have, and they're all built by immigrants. Unless you are a Native American or First Nations, then you are basically an immigrant, myself included. So I'm looking forward to talking to Nalini about her thoughts on that. After this, we talk to, speaking of immigration, we're going to be talking about diplomacy with Teo Rockson. Now, Teo was and is a son of a diplomat. And I was in Atlanta last week. I mean, I love talking to children of diplomats. They make for fascinating lunchtime and dinner time and breakfast conversation at table, because they're really bright, they're really good conversationists, they're great students of culture, they are great observers of human behavior. And so we're going to be talking about diplomacy, and he has 3 really simple steps to increase the diplomacy, to see all of the disparate things, all the things that are different in the world, and be such a good observer that you find the commonalities and ways to bridge the gaps. And that's what Teo is an expert at doing from a very, very young age. I'm looking forward to bringing Teo on the talk here. I'm really looking forward to it, for sure. After that, we're going to be talking to a former dentist, Ira Wolfe, about making change work for you. Making change work for you is his talk from TEDx Lehigh River, which is right up the street here, a couple hours in Allentown area of Pennsylvania. Teo Rockson's, I forgot to mention, was Cooper Union. I'm not sure where that is, TEDx Cooper Union. But Ira has some great ideas about change. Now, the thing I love about Ira is that I call myself the 43-year-old millennial, and my father shared something that said, basically had the dates, and they're all shifting all over the place. But apparently, according to the stats my dad shifted, and I've seen these elsewhere, there are 41-year-old millennials walking around who really are millennials. Well, I'm a 43-year-old millennial. Now, I take issue, and I think that every 41 or 40 or 39 or 38-year-old millennial, I think they're really Xers, and yeah, it bleeds over a little bit, but I mean, here's my argument. If you used to watch the Jefferson or the Jefferson reruns on TV or Three's Company reruns on TV, you are not a millennial, okay? Because that stuff wasn't, I mean, if you were like, had a job when 9/11 happened and you were working out in the working world, you probably not a millennial. Get in trouble maybe with that statement, but anyway, Ira is a dentist who pivoted careers, and he loves change that much, just like supposedly millennials do love change. I'm sure not all millennials love change, but he's talking about pivoting, and he's talking about being in the now, and I just find a lot of his ideas very, very fascinating, particularly since he completely changed careers. So that's going to be a lot of fun. After that, we have Farzana Jeraj from TEDx Stanley Park. And she basically was brought in. She does mindfulness and meditation. So she, very similar to an MC, was brought in to kind of be a break. And she gave a great talk. But a lot of it is breathing and guided meditation. So I've been thinking about this. I think the interview we're going to have is going to be more about the role of an MC or a performer, as well as her brief talk, which is mainly a guided meditation. So that's really where I'm going to take that interview. It's going to be a lot of fun, for sure. And then after that, we're going to talk to Edwin Edebiri, now from TEDx University of Las Vegas. Okay, now Edwin Edebiri talks about happiness as a default position. Now, a lot of people talk about happiness. I've had 2 or 3 different people that do laughter exercises and all this stuff. Here's what's different about Edwin, okay? He has, and this is what I like about him, okay? I'm looking up to Edwin. You know why? He has interviewed 1,000 people. 1,000 people on happiness. So the guy knows a thing or two about being a chief happiness officer. He's interviewed 1,000 people about happiness. Now, at this point in time, I've only got just shy of 200 interviews lined up. Come back to me in a couple of years, and I'll be pretty close to 1,000 people interviewed. So this guy is years ahead of me. Just as an interviewer, I'm really looking forward to talking with Edwin Edebiri tomorrow, or maybe Friday. I think we may be kind of past the pivot into Friday. I don't have my schedule right in front of me. Now, after this, we are going to talk to Willem Philipsen of TEDx Rotterdam. This is going to be good stuff. Oh, look at this, man! We've got the comments popping up, and because I'm not recording an interview, I'm going to break with my laundry list, to acknowledge a comment here. Dave Gambrell, Mr. Marketing, good to see you, my friend. Asked Teo about the time we were at the Thrive Conference in New York City and were 2 of about 20 dudes among 1,000. Speaking of 1,000 people, or 1,000 anything, 1,000 interviews. So what was that like, Dave, Mr. Now, there are a whole bunch of college students that want to find out how to stack the odds in their favor that way. That's going to be a lot of fun. And, I may just name drop my buddy Dave Gambrell's name in the middle of the conversation. That might be fun. And might be worth it to live tag the likes of Dave Gambrell as well. So from one Facebook living guy to another, that sounds like a fun story. All right. Okay. Willem Philipsen from TEDx Rotterdam, okay? The women overtook the men's bath. Yeah, so that the other way around now. I went to a men's conference, and there were women kind of helping and serving and whatnot, and there was we took over the women's bathroom, which was really bad. Bunch of dudes in the women's bathroom in the stadium at an all-men's conference. It was not as efficient or effective as just going in the men's bathroom. Andrea, good to see you. Always good to see you, Andrea. Great hospitality professional, award-winning represent right there. Okay, I'm jumping. My third and final $1 million smile. Yeah, for sure. All right, third and final attempt at jumping back on here with Willem Philipsen. Okay, TEDx Rotterdam. Great sense of humor, this guy. He was basically a rock star. I will be talking to a rock star, okay? I'm going to be talking to someone that played guitar in stadiums for A-list bands, I believe the story is. Wakes up one day with not a migraine, but basically a massive stroke, and days later wakes out of his coma and only half of his body is working. We're going to talk about how my broken brain made me reconnect to life. That's the talk. That's his TED Talk. You can watch all of these TED Talks. I'm changing the format a little. I'm actually listing their talks so that you can watch their talk like I did, so that you can be tuned in with me as I'm doing the live interview, because we're going to go beyond the talk and we're going to go behind the talk so that you guys can be the talk. That's why I do this stuff. So this is just a 2-minute review. I've actually made some format changes and improvements, and I just say a 2-minute review. Take us behind the talk, but do that for just 2 minutes, because we want to go beyond the talk and we want to get all this wealth. You already gave the performance. That's already archived. That's already recorded. We can watch that if we want to, and we do want to. So let's tell us more. Let's go beyond. There's no time limit here. Okay, we've got plenty of time to talk about all this stuff. So how my broken brain made me reconnect to life. Okay, Willem. This is just amazing, and we're going to be hearing from Marcus Aurelius Anderson in a very similar situation. So we've got these themes. When you interview 15 people in a week, there are themes that start emerging, and this is an austerity and stoicism theme. This is an adversity and stoicism theme. Tim Ferriss is big on stoicism and using adversity to your advantage. So Willem is going to tell us how he did that. Do you commit suicide? Do you, do something to end it all and take power of your life in that way? I'm being really, really frank and blunt. And they all think about it, and then the people that I interview on Be the Talk have given a TEDx talk and defeated the powerlessness that they feel, and they found a way to take the choice and the power that they have to improve their life and have a mission to improve so many other people. The rest of us out here, come on, we're all able-bodied people, and frankly, by the statistics, we're all struggling with depression, and we're struggling with all of this mental stuff, emotional stuff. Frankly, we are. And we're all totally able-bodied, and then you have these other people out there that are completely paralyzed, or were completely paralyzed, got half of the usage and function and mobility back, half their mobility back. This is what Willem did, okay? This is a backstory. I'm spoiling his TEDx talk, but you're free to watch it as well. Willem Philipsen, TEDx Rotterdam. Look it up right now. The only thing that motivated him, not learning how to talk again, not learning how to think again, not learning how to play music and compose music again and do brain scans. He shows brain scans of what his brain looks like. He's got a big portion of his brain removed, and yet he doesn't know why it works either, but there's activity recorded on sections of the brain that do not exist for him. Very interesting. What inspired him? A 3-kilometer swim. Being part of a massive 3-kilometer group swim, he trained for the swim for 18 months. He successfully completed a 3-kilometer swim with one arm and one leg working, and one arm and one leg not working. Amazing. I'm going to skip over here. Marcus Aurelius Anderson, the gift of adversity. Something very similar happened to him. He woke up at the age of 40. He was broke, he was bedridden, he was divorced, he was paralyzed. And then he realized, a little bit of a time after that, he realized what a gift it was, because it gave him the power of choice. It gave him feedback in his life. It gave him the opportunity to rise to the occasion and not fight the adversity, because it's like fighting the law of gravity. It's not going to work. The adversity is there. You're going to make meaning out of that adversity and find the greatest good. That's what Marcus Aurelius Anderson has done. His talk is from TEDx Como. I don't know what C-O capital M-O. I don't know what Como is. I'll find that out. You can actually Google it faster than I can now, because I'm on Facebook Live right here. We talked... We talked about Willem. We talked about Marcus. Good boundaries, free use. Sarri Gilman. So we're going to talk about those boundaries. We're going to talk about what boundaries do. Now, this talk has been very, very successful. Over 250,000 views of this talk. Over 200 and just about 270,000 views on this talk. So she talks about boundaries being like a compass. And if you don't like the compass, it's like a yes-no compass. And don't get angry with the compass. Do the hard work of making a choice to set a boundary. It's very similar to the austerity and the stoicism and the adversity talk. I mean, take that, swallow hard, set a boundary, tell people no, tick them off, okay? Get smacked emotionally, and hit it. Draw the line, and deal with the short-term flack, and enjoy the long-term game. Enjoy the midterm game. Enjoy the freedom, the lack of pain in the mid to long term, and take it, rip the Band-Aid off in the short term. If you, like I, as the host of a rapidly growing, popular podcast where everybody, it seems, coming out of the woodwork, I love you folks, and there is a place to apply on the FAQ page, FAQ page of BeTheTalk.com. There's an FAQ page where you also can apply to come and have your interview selected. Now, there are boundaries, okay? This is where it all comes in with Sarri's talk. I have boundaries, okay? And people say, oh, wow, I saw you on Facebook Live. I want to be on. And I want you to want to come on, and I want you to give that talk that changes the world. And I want you to give that branded talk. And I'm defining a branded talk as a TED talk, a TEDx talk. Those are going to be the absolute lion's share. If you've given a Google talk, a Google headquarters, and it's on YouTube there, that's an idea-centered talk, and that's a very elite one. I will, consider bringing you on. I have it all listed in there. If you've given a Q Ideas talk, that's a faith community branded talk that is also very, very exclusive. I will bring you on for there. And actually, I'm looking for people from some of those other places to bring on as well. Why don't you just limit it to a TED Talk, Nathan? Well, TED's not my brand, okay? So, I mean, I've got the color red is kind of a throwback to that, and then I have the word talk, which is kind of hard to copyright. Somebody probably has done it, but I don't, that's why I did this, because I am fortunate enough to be part of a very large community of, that involves very strong branding as well as very strong usage rights, and I see how that is policed, and in my humble opinion, TED and their lawyers and TEDx and their lawyers, they don't do a good enough job, frankly, of policing their domain. Now, if your name is TED, I guess they can't force you to change your name, and they're not anywhere close to that because, I don't know about you folks. This is part of the reason why I started the podcast, because I have a number of acquaintances on social media that started reaching out to me. Hey, Nathan, want to give a TED Talk? And I'm like, sure, I want to give a TED Talk. This was a year ago. I hadn't given my TEDx talk yet. You want to give a TEDx talk? Hey, I've got a friend that's doing this training and blah, blah, blah. And I said, great. Okay, well, how do I find? Oh, it's only $1,000 or it's only $500, And my issue isn't that the coaching or the fee or the premiumness. You listen to my podcast, and it's like every week I'm advocating, hey, hire somebody to coach you. Okay, spend money, invest money so that you give a good talk instead of a mediocre one that just takes up bandwidth out here. So I'm not against the premium. You need it. I'm all for it, but I'm not for the way that some people I call it the bait and pitch. Okay, and I thought, what can I do every week, every day? What can I do to really give back and to resource people that truly have the best ideas out there? Well, I am going to help them, and I'm going to make it truly a resource, and not everything's going to be free. Even on my own website, I'm going to develop more and more resources, and most of them will not be free, but some of them will be, and this podcast certainly is free. You get it 7 days a week, and so that's the reason that I did that. Now, all of this back to, I really think that TED, the lawyers, TEDx, the lawyers, all of that, it's a very good brand. They need to police it better. That's why I don't restrict my guests only to TED or TEDx, because I don't know where the line is, and I know that the belt will be tightened at some point. When that belt tightening happens, I want to be able to say, hey, I've got people from Q Ideas on here. I've got people from Google Talks, Idea City, some of these other places, but I'm not bringing the Toastmaster champions on. I'm not bringing the mainstream out, the speaker-centric that's not this is idea-centric and very, very, very elite. Why? Boundaries. Okay, now that was a big digression, but I am looking forward to talking to Sarri Gilman about boundaries, because as you see, it's like I've boundaries about this podcast. You know why? Because if it was a graduation speaker or a valedictorian, you wouldn't be listening to come on, all right? We love the valedictorian. We love the district champion Toastmaster. Those are really impressive big things. That's for your podcast, perhaps. This is Be the Talk, and this is idea-centric. It's very kind of elite, but it's also democratized, because we want you. We want you to be the person to go out there to change the world with your talk. There's really something special about these branded platforms, because they force you to do it in a very certain way. And doesn't matter if you are a world-renowned expert. Everybody else is a world-renowned expert. And the best TED Talks, for example, the best Google Talk, whatever, they are the ones where the idea is exalted above the speaker. So powerful, powerful stuff. Okay, boundaries. All right, and a little word about the boundaries that I have with this show as well. All right, we're coming down for a landing here. I will say my friend David McGlennen is coming on. I'm looking forward to interviewing him, and it's not for Be the Talk. I will say that, because he's probably going to give. I'm sure he'll give a TED Talk very, very soon, because he's a better speaker, far better speaker than I am. And so we're doing an interview for a different program that I have as well. But I threw him in there just for an extra person to tag. Here's another one. Just two left, actually. Just two left, okay? Philippe Noel from TEDx Harvard College. And this is basically along with the flux capacitor on Back to the Future. I believe right at the end, Doc comes flying in on a flying car from the future, opens up the fuel tank, and throws trash can waste into the fuel tank of the supercharged flying DeLorean at the end of Back to the Future. That's what we're going to talk about with Philippe, because he's going to talk. He's figured it out, how leftovers can fuel your car. Okay, how leftovers can fuel your car. This is going to be unbelievable. All right, my final guest is going to be Pragya Agarwal of TEDx Warwick, and she is a creativity expert. She's going to be talking about creative confidence, creative strength, and her talk is called How to Develop a Creative Habit. I just can't wait for this, everybody. This is going to be unbelievable. It's going to be epic. I think it may be record-breaking. I don't think I've interviewed 15 people in a week at this point in time. 15 people in a week, I don't think that I have. So anyway, tune in. As always, the people that Skype in on video, I give them the opportunity. Almost everybody that I've Skype videoed has opted for the instant release Facebook Live. Why? Well, because they don't have to wait for 5 weeks. And that line is getting longer. I think at this point it may be 6 weeks, because as I've been changing and making more effective and efficient the way that I conduct my interviews, I still don't have a dedicated VA to help me, line up all the interviews. I do it all myself. But you know what, folks? We talked about the power of design, and I used to teach instructional design at the graduate school collegiate level. Okay, so I know instructional design. I have, and you know what? The first thing that you need to know if you're going to be a good instructional designer and write good manuals or write good little lists and things is that almost everybody else out there doesn't care about your stupid list and doesn't care about your stupid manual. So knowing that, okay, I have still created a onboarding mechanism that is effective and getting more and more effective, and having an interview to kind of, hold over everybody, with their time and everything else. That doesn't hurt either, because it's a great. I mean, when I bring in a guest on this show, and some of them I've been experimenting, as you've seen with the videos. If you like the videos that I have for some of my guests, let me know about that. I really like to know what's working. So if you spread the things that you like, if you share the things that you like, some of the videos, I've tried to carve out time for audio clips that you can actually listen to right in the window. I haven't gotten that far yet, my friends, but I will as this picks up. I mean, this is a powerful thing for all of the guests that I have. It's really, like I've said many times before, my first loyalty. My almost first loyalty is to Talk Universe in terms of making it entertaining, engaging, not letting people rattle on too long. But even more important than that, just by a hair, is to conduct a respectful interview that indicates that I did at least the basic homework of watching their talk and coming up with a good lead-in, making it easy for them to talk, making it easy for them to look like an amazing expert like they are. Now, I mean, it's like we can go to conferences and the guy says to us, hey, you're an expert, and you're turn to your neighbor and say you're an expert. And I remember seeing my friend, I'm going to shout out my friend Ed DeCosta, who my sales faculty for so long, taught me sales, mentor, trained in Guatemala together. And he, I think, came back from one of these conferences. I remember seeing on his wall this whole thing about not everybody is an expert. He really qualified that. I really thought it was a good post that he put, because not everybody, I mean, we all think we're an expert. I think that's a better way of saying it. And we all do have the capacity to be an expert. And here's the sad thing. This is what I've discovered, because, shoot, I just said, hey, I used to teach, graduate school. I used to be a college professor, adjunct college professor. Now, see, I even had to lower my expertise right there a little bit by calling myself an adjunct, but it's not. I always wanted to be a college professor, and I was, and then I realized I didn't want to be anymore. But here's the thing. Even with all that expertise, unless somebody positions you in the role of an expert, unless somebody postures you, asks you intelligent, respectful questions, shuts up. Okay? There's that Saturday Night Live skit, What's Up With That, where the guy sings his little song and he's the host, or the Chris Farley show, but this is, I'm forgetting it, Keenan Thompson is his name, and he said, what's up with that? What's up? And then he has, Vice President Al Gore as his interviewee, and what's up with that? He sings his what's up with that song, and then he asks a stupid, vague question to Al Gore, and it's the only question he asks the expert, who is a vice president of anything, basically is an expert, much less the United States, much more the United States of America. And then he asks Vice President Gore a question, and then he cuts on top of him, and he starts singing, and he jumps back on, and then everybody starts dancing, and the expert is sitting there, thinking, what the heck? and so that's the thing. I mean, you might be an expert, okay? You might have been a heartbeat away from the presidency like Al Gore, and you're on a Saturday Night Live talk show, which is a fake talk show. But doesn't that ring true? Because you can't just be an expert. People don't know you're an expert. People don't know what you're an expert in unless you're positioned intelligently by a fairly intelligent person. Okay, I'm learning how to do this, folks. I've done, at the end of this week, I will have conducted about, I think, 145 interviews. Now, only 150 15 or so are live right now, but I will have conducted about 140 to 145 of these. So I'm getting better. And it really takes an expert to position an expert to look like an expert. I like that. I think that might be it takes an expert to position an expert to look like the expert that they are. And so that's the power of all this. That's the reason why I do these previews. That's a big part of the reason, because I want to and actually, what am I doing? I'm practicing. I'm forcing myself to watch everybody's interview, write it all down, have a short list, okay? Whatever you're doing at home, whatever you're doing in your expert way, what are you doing to create a short list? Systems, timelines. My mentor Paul calls it a TikTok, so that you have an organization, so that you have a flow that you can repeat, that you can get in the groove of. And then what am I doing? I'm beginning to speak the language. I'm saying their names. Some of these names are not, you notice I bumble over them the first 3 times that I try to say their name. So anyway, this is what this is for. And then I do a post review, because I want to talk to you about not just what I learned from their TED Talk. I want to talk to you about what I learned from the interview. It's unbelievable. The people, I mean, I talked to the person that went down door to door for 2 years saying, hey, this is this guy, and it's called, U2, and his name's Bono, and he's really good. Will you play it on your radio stations? For 2 years. You talk about, the persistence chapter 9 from Think and Grow Rich. That's persistence, okay? And I'm talking to Tony Michaelides a couple of weeks ago about that. I mean, it's amazing the people that we're talking to on this show. It's absolutely amazing. That's all the time we have for today. I've gone way, way, way over, as I always do, but it's all good. It's fascinating, and I will see you tomorrow for as many Facebook Lives as you can jump on. Take care, everybody. See you soon.